Well, welcome back to the Valley Hoops Insider podcast, part of the Valley Hoops Insider website. I'm Harry Schroeder, glad to be with you today, and it's Final Four weekend. It's what we've been building toward all basketball season long. And, sometimes we're watching games in the stands or watching it on television. We're thinking, why did that referee do that? Or what are those referees thinking? Or what are they going through emotionally? Nah, we never think about what they're going through emotionally. But we do ask those other questions. And I thought we need to have a Hall of Fame basketball referee on the podcast to talk about all of those stuff. And so we welcome in Gerry Pollard, who's part of the Missouri State Sports Basketball Hall of Fame. Decades as a referee, high school, college, etc. Gerry, first, just thanks for taking time to spend time with us today.
Hey, Harry, thanks a lot. I really appreciate that. I hope everybody, I've been gone long enough now. It's been 2 years that everybody's kind of forgotten all those missed calls that I had.
Always the problem. It's so funny when I go to basketball games and the fans behind me are saying, "Come on, Gerry. Come on, Bill." I mean, they know the referees' names and they're calling your name out like they're insiders, like they're good friends.
Well, there's a story behind that, and if we want to start it like this, we can. But we can.
Yeah, why not?
We can do that later. But I got hired in the Valley by Boomer Bain in 1993, and about 94, 95, I was at Southern Illinois with a longtime Valley guy, and most everybody that's been around a while knows him, and it was Ron Zetcher.
Oh, sure. I know Ron.
And as we're walking on the court, these fans are killing him. I mean, "Hey, Zetcher, you stink," or whatever, and "what color's your hair going to be next week when you," in all the stuff that they used to razz Zetcher about. And I thought to myself, and I remember it like it was yesterday, and I've told this story on other podcasts and other things when I've been in these types of situations. But I thought, man, would it be cool for me to last long enough in this league that when I walk on the floor, people yell my name? So fast forward 10, 15, 20 years, and I walk out to every arena in the Valley, and oh boy, it wasn't as exciting as I thought it was going to be. But
you had arrived.
Yeah, needless to say, I don't think I could have ran for mayor in places like Bloomington and Normal and even Peoria and some of those other places. But that's okay. It was a lot of fun.
It's just so funny to me when I listen to that, when I'm on press row and listen to people trying to talk to the refs by their first name. If I have this right, 27 Division I seasons for you. Does that sound right?
30.
There you go. So more than that. And all of those years, a lot of different conferences. I know you were in the Valley a long time, but some of the higher major conferences, you worked for them as well. Now in your retirement, overseeing officials in a number of different leagues. What's that like to be on the other side of the evaluation process?
Well, a lot of people know this, but maybe you don't. But back when I got hired, it was about 2008. I'd started doing it in 2000, actually. I was a small college coordinator for the American Midwest Conference here in St. Louis.
NAIA, I know.
Yep. And I started that in 2000. And in 2008, John Adams had the GLVC, which I'm sold in Maryville, and all those are in. Was a hard league. Nothing to take away from it now, but my goodness. In 2008, they were winning national championships. And John Adams took over the national coordinator job, and I was able to get the GLVC. So, and then I got the SLIAC when Zetcher retired, and then I've accumulated the Illinois JUCOs and the Missouri JUCOs. So I got 5 small college leagues with 58 schools, and I've been doing that for 20 years.
You got nothing to do.
Yeah, and it's that, and working a full schedule all those years was, people would ask me how I do it, and I'm just like, you know what? Computerization and technology has been amazing to allow people like me to do that. But this was my exit plan, to be able to get into a D1 position, and then the Big 12 job opened up, and the consortium with the Valley underneath the Big 12, and then Higgins got the top job, and I just had both knees replaced. A lot of people don't know that. The Usain Bolt in me kind of went away, and I didn't have the exit plan. I had both of them done the same day, which wasn't real smart, but I was laying in bed, had them done March 26, 2024, and I was laying in bed like April the 5th in misery, and the phone rang, and it was Higgins. And he says, "You really want to try and come back and do this, or you want to be my right-hand man?" Well, Higgins and I have been best of friends for years, and we worked probably over 200 games together. And
Wow.
Boomer trained and brought us up both the same way, so we think alike, we refereed alike. We just always were really close, and it was a no-brainer because I was going to get into what I'm doing now, and that's teaching, training, identifying, developing, and just giving back to the game that's been so good to me.
That's awesome. No, it's a great thing. You were a great official, obviously, all those NCAA tournaments. How many NCAA tournaments did you work?
I worked 21 in a row if you get rid of 2020 when
the COVID
shut it down. But 21 consecutive tournaments, which
I read somewhere where you were the official or one of the officials for maybe Loyola's Elite Eight game the year they made their big run, which leads me into this question. It's the NCAA tournament. It's a Sweet 16. It's the Elite Eight. It might, be some big conference championship kind of game going on. Do referees get pumped up, get excited like I'm doing a big game, or do they have to dial it back and just have it be a game?
Man, if I walked out there one time, and I don't care if I was refereeing Slippery Rock and ABC University, if I didn't get excited to be there, I mean, think about it, Harry. I'm making a lot of money because we're paid pretty well to referee a basketball game. And I told this story back in the day one time, and that's another story for maybe later in the podcast, but I told James Dickey that I wore a bulletproof vest every day to work, that I wasn't going to let Coach Bobby Knight intimidate me. And going through the whole law enforcement stuff for 23 years and 10 years on the SWAT team, and so much of that was so serious, and life and death and threatening and all that other craziness. And I got to pinch myself when I think back of what all I went through with that. But honestly, when I'm out there and there's 16,000 people in Allen Fieldhouse or 10,000 in Carver Arena, and they're all just jacked up, you know what? That's pretty fun. And if you don't get your juices flowing by doing that, it's just like being a player. We all want to be the referee, throw the ball up Monday night, and everybody else will be mad and pissed off if they're not. So we're just like the players. We get fired up too, but we got to control our emotions and do our job. So
my favorite, I watch officials a lot. Like when I'm watching games, I like to study officials and see what they're doing. And I enjoy the officials that aren't blowing their whistle every first time something happens, and they are starting to have conversations with players throughout the game and kind of leading the players into the way they want them to play. There's an art form to all of that, isn't it? Like partnering both with the coaches and the players.
Absolutely. I mean, I would much rather, and I think you've watched me work enough games. I was a player's referee.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell the story about Nate Green, who played at Indiana State from 98 to 2002. When Nate came into the league, he was a jerk. He was a hotshot freshman with all these accolades. And in today's world, he would have played one year at Indiana State and then went on to Power 5. And he played a little bit of cup of coffee in the NBA, went overseas for 8 or 9 years and had a great career. And now he's an NBA referee.
No kidding.
Come up through Gerry Pollard's camps and training and all that stuff. Well, we go back to that, and I told him his second game I had him in 98, he waved me off, and I walked over to him. And of course, he's playing for Royce, and you got to be careful there because Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde over there with Royce, you didn't know how he was going to react by getting after one of his players, but I just told Nate, I said, young man, I've been in this league before you got here, and I'm going to be here when you leave. And if you want to be here 2 years, 4 years, whatever, you got a choice to make. But the way you're working with us officials right now is not going to work. And he goes, whatever, and kind of waved me off and walked away. By Nate Green's senior year, we were first name basis. And give credit to Nate Green, not to Gerry Pollard, because he's a tremendous person. He grew into being a tremendous person.
That's awesome.
But I told him, I said, when you get done playing, go make as much money as you can, man. When you get done playing, call me, because you'd make a hell of a referee. 8 years later, my phone rings. Hey, Gerry, Nate Green, remember me? I said, heck yes. He says, I'm done playing. Guess what I did last night? And I said, what? And he said, I went to the Y with my brother-in-law, and I refereed 6 games. And I think I want to do this.
That's cool.
He came to my camp. We got him on the fast track. Of course, he's 6'6", 200 pounds, looks like $1 million, passes the eye test. And 3 years later, he was hired in the SEC consortium, and then we hired him in the Big 12 consortium in the Valley. And then he always wanted to be an NBA referee, and he got an opportunity there too through some of my connections and him doing a lot of the work on his own. So I'm pretty proud of that, and it just goes to show you, if you communicate with these kids, it may not work the first time, but if you stay with them and they realize you're a normal human being and you're not out to get them because you're wearing that stupid looking striped shirt, a lot of them get it and pick up on that. And the good referees are the ones that can communicate with those kids. So,
yeah, I think that's so important. Take me to your very first Division I college basketball game. Do you remember it?
Absolutely. You're going to laugh. Everybody on this podcast is going to go, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. 1993. I want to say around November the 7th or 8th. And Boomer had the Valley back then, but he also assigned some independents like UMKC and Oral Roberts. And my first game was at Oral Roberts against Stephen F. Austin. And the coach at Oral Roberts, it was his first Division I game as a head coach, and it just so happens to be one Bill Self.
Get out.
Swear to God. And we've had this story a couple times between when it's just been him and me, and I went to KU to evaluate the game last year in December, and I had a chance to get in and talk to the coaching staff, and Bill brought it up. He said, guys, he says, we've all watched this guy referee a zillion games here at KU, and would you all believe that he refereed my first game, and that was his first game? And I said, the only difference between me and you in that first game is you made a hell of a lot more money.
I was going to say more dollars.
So that's a great story. And I mean, we all know if you're from Missouri, you hate Kansas and Bill Self, but I've probably refereed 75 of his games, and we got a great relationship. And I mean, he's a Hall of Famer.
Absolutely. So, you're a native Missourian, Troy, I think. So the Trojans are known. They're always great shooting basketball players. Were you a great shooter?
I didn't find a shot that I didn't like. I'll tell you that much. Gerry Pollard led the 1977 Class 3A, 4th place Troy Trojans in assists as a sophomore.
There you go.
And I was around 4 really good seniors. We went to the Final Four the year before my freshman year with the coach's son, who was a great player, ended up playing at SEMO. And without the three-point shot, hell, he had averaged 40 points in high school if he had a three-point shot. But I was blessed to play with some best really good players. And in my senior year, my best friend grew into an all-stater. And I told him that I was the one that made him an all-stater because I was the one getting him the basketball. So, but you know what? You leave me open, I could shoot it a little bit. So That wasn't my job.
That was always the reputation, though. The Troy Trojans were going to hit shots, always make free throws, and they were going to be great shooters. Compare, contrast. You alluded to it. Some people won't know that you were a longtime police officer. Compare, contrast being a referee and a police officer.
Well, I think anybody who knows me knows I'm a type A personality kind of guy, and I like to be in charge, and I like to take care of things. And I think that's one thing, if you can watch when I was the lead official on games in the Valley, nothing ever happened. I just took care of business, and Higgins is the same way. And, a lot of people would think maybe we were overbearing at times, but we were doing what Boomer told us to do. We're just following orders, but doing that, I learned how to do it and do it the right way. And not everybody's going to like the way the right way was, but we got things done, and you never really seen nothing goofy happen in our games. And you turn that into law enforcement, nothing goofy can happen. And I mean, I was the point man on our SWAT team for 10 years and about 475 entries into drug search warrants and barricaded subjects and a few hostage situations and stuff like that. And you talking about an adrenaline rush, and I don't talk about it much, but when you go through that door, a guy blows a door open, and now you're going through that door in the land of the unknown with a MP5 machine gun in your hand. That's real. That's real. And I was very fortunate that I never really had to do anything in a lethal force type situation. I came close, 2 or 3 times, but the teamwork and the camaraderie and the stuff with that SWAT team, I always asked the commander, I said, I don't know why I'm always first. Either I'm the best decision maker or I'm the most expendable. And I kind of got the feeling I was the most expendable, but the teamwork and the camaraderie with those guys that are faced with those things is a lot, in many ways, similar to the 3 guys in that dressing room before we go out and referee a hard game. I mean, you go back and you take the in Terre Haute and the Greg Lansings of the world and the Jake Odoms of the world. Gerry Pollard's infamous for the foul that he called on Jake Odom in the last 5 minutes of the Valley Championship game that sent the Shockers to an undefeated season and on into there. I still get trouble from Lansing, and that's good trouble with Greg because we're good friends. But the other side of it is not real nice at times, including Jake Odom voicing his opinion on what he thought of the call. But you gotta have some crew chemistry and like who you're working with. And because I've been out there with guys in games that I didn't like them, and they probably didn't like me, but you did your job. You remained a professional. And my saying was, get the clock to zeros and let's stay off Sports Center, because I don't want to be on Sports Center as a referee. That's it. No thanks.
During this NCAA tournament, there have been a couple of things that have popped up, right? And St. Louis U the other night, they have a theoretically game-winning shot hit against them. They're trying to inbound the ball, and players from the other team are running on the court. That became a thing after the game, a conversation. And then I've seen it repeatedly now, several times during the NCAA tournament, where big shot hits and assistant coaches and players are going on the floor, and there's still time on the clock. And a lot of people have queried, they've wondered, what should have happened there? Is the official just supposed to stop the game? Is he supposed to tee up that team that goes running on the floor? I wonder if you have thoughts about that.
Well, the rule states that if a bench personnel player, coach, bench personnel runs on the floor with time on the clock and interferes with the ensuing throw-in, it's a Class B technical foul, which is 1 free throw and the ball out of bounds. With the rule being written like that, and I mean, you can mark this down, Harry. John Higgins and I talked we talk every day about 10 times, but we talked last night about he's going to the Final Four, and he's meeting with some people with the different consortiums, and Chris Rastetter, the national coordinator of officials, and they'll ask us coordinators, and I'll be on the Zoom call with them in the morning because I couldn't get to Indy because one of my commanders from the sheriff's department passed away, and his funeral Saturday, and I don't want to miss that. But they'll ask us, what do we need to do rule wise? And I guarantee you that rule will be changed in regard to people running on the floor like that. Now here, you see, there's 330 Division I teams, right? And only about 20 of them can score 80 points a game. So what do the other ones do? They circumvent the rules to try to cut the other team from doing what they do well. Well, officials do the same thing. How can we get around a rule that's going to get us in trouble? As soon as that ball on a last-second shot clears that net, John Higgins and Gerry Pollard, I guarantee, because we teach that to our consortium now, as soon as that ball clears the net, kill it. Blow your whistle and kill it, and tell everybody in the building that you're going to the monitor because you don't think the clock stopped in time. Now, that saves you because you've killed it. And if they're on the floor, running on the floor or whatever, doesn't matter because the ball's dead, right?
Sure.
In the SLU game, a couple things happened. SLU didn't try to take the ball out, and I forget which player it was, but he was standing in the lane with the ball in his hands, like, what do I do? Because there was so much chaos.
Right.
All right. In reality, and I can't remember. I think the referees did blow it, but not right after the ball cleared the net. I think they waited till the violation occurred.
Right.
So technically, it gets to a discretionary decision on their part as to whether that throw-in was messed with by those people going on. Well, if the guy's not out of bounds throwing the ball in, how can it be messed with? And I think that was their mentality with it. The UConn deal the other night with the last second shot, same thing. They run out there and they do this. But when I was refereeing, you always try to find ways to build a rapport with coaches and assistant coaches. Because be nice to assistant coaches because they're going to become head coaches someday. Okay?
Yeah.
And that was my theory. But if we're in a last second situation and we're coming out of a timeout, the team that had the basketball, say the team that had the basketball that was down, I would go over to their assistant coaches and I'm like, you three guys, I said, you all, I need your help. When you hit this game-winning shot, you have got to keep your players on the bench. Now, Gerry Pollard's already set the whole tone. If they come running out on the floor, and if I would have done that to the SLU deal the other night, I would have went right to Josh and said, Josh, I just told your three assistant coaches if y'all hit the game-winning shot to keep them off the floor. So if you turned it around and SLU would have hit the winning shot. But, you just try to do some things to do some preventive officiating to put yourself in the best situation. But I think you'll see the rule changed. It's got to get changed. There's got to be some clear clarification as to what the officials could do. And my God, it's March Madness. Everybody's wanting to tee up Hurley for brushing up against Roger Ayers and the forehead thing. And honestly, I called Roger the next day because we're really good friends. And I said, what the heck's going on? He said, man, he goes, he's crazy. And he said, all he did was he looked right at me, he goes, I love you, man. And he ran off. And that's all it was.
That's hilarious.
But no offense, but the media is trying to make it more than it is. And should be giving him a technical foul. And all these experts of the world, Terry McCauley and all these former referees that are now in a booth getting paid a lot of money to dissect what we do on the floor, should have been a technical foul and blah, 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 blah. But It's March Madness, man. That's what we want to see. Why do we gotta curtail it? You know.
So the other big play that happened obviously recently, I guess it was Nebraska only played with 4 players, and Iowa gets a breakaway layup, and people all opined that, I mean, some opined, well, the officials should have made sure there were 5 guys on the floor, and obviously that was Fred Hoiberg's job as well. I mean, the head coach and his assistant coaches. But your thoughts about that? Because I watch every time out of a timeout, the refs are counting the players and all those kinds of things. The officials have any responsibility in that situation?
Absolutely. The lead official counts all 10 of them. Okay. Let me change that. The guy throwing the ball in is responsible for the throw in. He counts all 10 of them. And then the guy to the right on one end counts the 5 that he's got, and the other guy counts the 5 that he's got. And we don't put the ball in bounds, at least we shouldn't, until we make eye contact with our partners and knowing that we got 5-on-5. And again, we get back to preventive officiating and pregame conferences and stuff like that. And I'm like, guys, the things that'll get us on Sports Center is playing. And I'm a St. Louis Blues fan. I make references. If we let them have power plays out there, 6-on-5 or shorthanded goals, it's on us. And of course, you can play with 4 without penalty. If you got 6 kids dressed out and 2 foul out, you can finish the game with 4 players. So really, that's not penalizable, so to speak, if there's a word like that. But you can't play with 6-on-5. And that's where no referee wants to have a game that gets exposed where there's 6-on-5, because that onus is completely on the officials when it's 6-on-5.
But the 5-on-4, should those officials have really known that and then said, wait a minute, you don't have all your people out here yet?
The right thing would have been done was to hold our hand up and not let the guy throw the ball in. And then, hey, Fred, you only got 4 out here. What are you doing? And not have anybody make a big deal out of it.
Sure. There was another play, I forget which team. It was in the regional here in St. Louis. Coach tried to call a timeout at the end of a game after the other team had hit that big basket, and he couldn't get he couldn't get the officials' attention or whatever. Man, it's so chaotic at those times, right? Is that, again, one of those proactive things? You're trying to communicate with the coach so that you know what he's thinking, or how do you try to handle those situations?
Well, if every official could be born with 6 eyes instead of 2, we'd be in business.
Sure.
But you also got to look at that particular deal. The ball's going to go up the floor extremely fast, right? Because the other team's trying to tie the game, take the lead, do whatever. They're on the offensive attack mode. Well, Herb's been around this game for 35, 40 years. When he come up and he waited a second to call the timeout. There was a little bit of, it's like, he's like, oh, wow, it happened. Now I know, I better get a timeout. So there was that split second. But he went after, Harry, if you look at, he went after the referee that was running away from him.
Right. The guy, he was trailing him.
Why are we doing that? That guy, that's not his responsibility. Come out on the floor 2 or 3 feet. There's going to be a referee running right by you. He's on the baseline. And get his attention. And even if, and people have seen me do it 1,000 times, even if that ball's in bounds and I turn and I look, and because we got to be looking, we got to have a feel for the game.
Right.
Really, we can't teach that. You got to have a feel for the game. And I think for all my other deficiencies as an official, the one thing that I did do is have a pretty good feel. So I'm looking for that timeout. But like you said, it's so chaotic. There's, if it puts them up by 3, is that other team going to foul so they only get 2 free throws? All that strategic stuff. But if Herb just steps out on the court 2 or 3 feet, and even if the ball gets in bounds and I turn and see him, I'm killing it. And I'm gonna go back and redo the throw in, but I'm gonna give him the timeout. And then I'm gonna go down there and tell that other coach who's pissed off because I interrupted their offensive attack. I'm gonna say, I'd do it for you. And that usually got me off the hook.
Well, Gerry and I kept talking and talking and talking. So that's the end of the first half of our 2-part interview with Hall of Fame referee Gerry Pollard. Part 2 will be coming up very soon, too. We talk about the proverbial late whistle, home court advantage, old stories, favorite coaches he reffed against. I think you're going to enjoy the second part as much as you've enjoyed the first part. Stick around for more Valley Hoops Insider podcasts right here on valleyhoopsinsider.com. Remember, since you've been there, make it a better place.